Hi, and welcome back to the FishBites Devlog. It's February 11th, 2022. And as I was filming the last episode of this, I noticed a very strange thing happening. That there was a fish swimming backwards and at a great rate of speed, and trying to figure out what in the world is going on there. So I'm going to try this episode to work on debugging that and try to walk through the process as best I can. Hopefully figure out what's going on here. I've not figured it out yet. What I do have is I found fish number 57 in the current simulation I'm running here actually has this strange feature. If you watch him here, you'll notice he is swimming backwards. And when I look at his information, okay, he died. That's frustrating. When I looked at his information, his size was a negative size, and his scale was a negative scale, which means he was flipped around backwards. So that might explain why he was swimming backwards. But how his size became negative, I'm not sure. That's very strange. Size is essentially the base size of a fish is his width of his mouth, essentially. And then there's the length ratio, which determines how long he is in relation to his width. So what I did was to help debug that, I went in and changed the fish genes class to make it serializable, which means that for the fish, I can make it a serialized field so I can see the fish genes in the for each fish. I can look through here and see what the genes are. Because I thought that was a gene problem. I thought maybe the max width was coming in negative. But if you look, those max widths are all like positive numbers. And for the one that I was looking at a second ago, number 57, he was also had a positive max width of 3 something. So something weird's going on there. Maybe. So a few days ago, I changed the max size of a fish. I changed it in Global Data Manager, basically my static global variables right here. I changed the max size of a fish. Let's see where it is here. Max full-grown fish is set to 4. It was set to 3. For all the testing I've done previously, I've never seen this before. So that maybe is that could be the issue, that I changed the full-grown size. Maybe fish that are between 3 and 4, somehow it's breaking the code. I thought it was the mutation stuff I was doing with the eggs. But man, I really have not seen a fish gene with a negative value in it yet. So I need to check the code and see how these baby fish are born and how they could possibly get a max width of 0. Also, what I did was I put into the it's going to spit out to the console down here in the bottom right when a negative width comes out for a fish. It's going to go crazy. Put the asterisk negative fish size, and it reports what it is. That might not be helpful enough to know what fish it was, though. That was the problem. So, in fact, it was showing a lot of those. So why they weren't all being born on? Maybe they were born. Maybe they have been born and just die so quickly. Not sure. So we'll dig into this and see what we can figure out. Okay, so I continued the same simulation. It took a while, but finally I had 2 of these negative fish sizes pop up. What's interesting about them, notice the fish sizes are super tiny also, like 0.055 and 0.178, which is smaller really than should be allowed. I believe fish sizes should, a baby fish should be born at 0.25 size. So I don't know how these are getting so small. So that could be a clue to what the problem is. I want to see if I can find the baby fish here in the simulation, so we can watch, see what we can see about them here. Okay, so there's the fish, and then you can see right in here fish size is equal to 4. Let's just walk down the fish sizes here of all these existing fish in the population. And theoretically it should be very near the end of the list. Maybe just fish was just born. So let's actually go down to the bottom of the list and see. There's some negative numbers there, but it's okay to have negative angled numbers. That's just the angles go positive and negative for what do you call it? The tails as it swims back and forth. Fish size 0.25. That was a baby right there with a tiny point size. These are all, you notice the sizes are all pretty small down through here. Huh. So I had these negative fish sizes, but then it didn't spawn. Didn't spawn them. I'm not sure. I don't think I've set up in my code to do anything beyond indicate that there's a negative fish size too. Let me see where I actually put that out from. That's coming from reset fish variable size. Okay, so fish script 692. So you can see when the fish size is less than 0, it freaks out, prints all this out. I was going to have it flip the number to make it positive, but I don't want to do that yet. I want to try to figure out why it's negative before I put a fix in for it, because it shouldn't be negative at all. Okay, so I'm going to have to change, I think, a little something here and maybe have it. I'll have to just kind of work backwards here, see where this is coming from. So reset fish size variable. Let's see what called that. If it shows me here, growth. Huh. So it's not being born, it's actually a growth. Use energy, makes it bigger, and then growth. And then growth is calling that. So I wonder if something's going wrong in the growth script. That's surprising. You know, if I hard coded in somewhere that the, you know, if I hard coded in somewhere that that 3 was the max width, and then I allow 4s, well, then that would cause a problem. Let's see. Okay, so fish size equals fish size plus growing width delta divided by the slow speed. So growing width delta, if it's negative, it could draw down to be negative. Is that a public variable? Or is it it's private? Because it'd be nice to be able to see that in the inspector. So let's see about that. So let me open up the fish script over here. I actually had a fish script, then I wanted to salvage that one, keep it intact just in case, and duplicated it, called fish2. So let's see. But essentially it's my fish script. Let's see this growth with delta equal to 0.3. Let me make it a public variable so I can see the value of it. Because that went negative, then that's being added to it. It could pull it down. And you notice I am decreasing the growing with delta there. Because I want things to, as they get bigger, they're going to grow more slowly. So, in fact, let me do this. I'll add a log. I'm going to log the growing with delta here. Print it to the console so I can see what it is after each time. And if it goes negative, yeah, it could start shrinking a fish and make it go negative. So very strange. You wouldn't think that would happen, but I'm not sure how that would happen, but apparently it is happening. I'm guessing anyway. I'm guessing this is the problem. So we've got that there. I've made it a public variable. Growth energy scalar is 1 plus this trying to remember what that's for. It's been so long since I've done this. Energy less than half energy, growth energy scale equals 1. Maybe that's so if the fish is what if energy is less than half? So if energy is greater than half energy, it can grow. Energy scalar is 1 plus all the static of it. So I think that just gives some kind of a can increase the value of the growth, and I can put that in the static variables to make things grow faster or slower. I think that's all that is. Anyway, where is that being used though? I see me setting the value a lot. Oh, it's for energy. How the energy is being used. Okay. So one thing I could do, clearly, is I could take this variable that I'm afraid is going negative on me. I'm decrementing it there by some small amount. I could put a cap in there so that it prevents it from going below 0. Just do a little check. But instead of fixing that now, I actually want to keep the problem in place. Don't just throw a fix in there and not understand it. You know, let's instead go back and see if we can get some more logging out of this thing. It's gonna have to recompile here, so I'm gonna pause the video while it recompiles. Okay, so recompiled here, and I'm running a simulation, and I kind of forgot this would happen, but the growing width delta is just flying by, because every fish that grows, every time it grows a little bit, it's going to spit this to the console. So it's a lot of things happening here at the console. But I think when I get the that big flag hits for like a negative value, I think it's gonna, like, I can then check to see right above it if the growing width value went negative. That'd be the problem. So and as I was thinking about it, I did realize that when I designed this growth width delta to try to give me kind of a nonlinear growth on these fish, I think in coming up with that formula, I believe on a spreadsheet, I believe I made an assumption that the max size would be 3. So if max size is 4, that might kind of break my functionality, and maybe it goes below 0. So I don't know, we'll see. Mostly though, I'm seeing growth deltas that are like 0.2, some 0.1, 0.18, 0.17. Mostly they're in the 0.2 range. So I'll pause the video here, and if I see one pop up that's a problem, we'll talk about it here. So this is part of the challenge of debugging, is trying to reproduce the problem. And I really have no way to reproduce it. I have to just kind of wait for it to happen. And of course, when I'm watching for it to happen, that's when it's not going to happen. So it's taking forever here. It's taking a while anyway. The simulation says it's been going for 1.3 minutes, which really is longer than that because my time scale is not set to 1. But I am watching this fish here who's getting bigger and growing. Look like he will reach full growth, which is 3.5, which is pretty good. So I think you know, I've got to run out for some dinner. So I'll have to finish this at a different time. But I feel like I'm on the right track here, because I feel like I did find the one place where there was the possibility of shrinking something, of this fish size reducing, because I forgot that growth with delta changes. It's not fixed, so it changes, and if it changes by a formula, and if that formula doesn't take into account, and I think I saw a negative one go by, doesn't take into account that it could go negative, that could be a problem. Oh, I think wait, or was it here? There we go. Look at that. Let me Let me zoom in here so I can see that. So notice right here, growth with delta becomes a negative 0.14. And for whatever fish that is, if that fish keeps growing, in a sense, by reducing the fish size, the size could eventually go negative. It might take a while for that to happen, actually. I don't know what fish that's from, to be able to say how long it's going to take for the thing to shrink, essentially. Maybe they keep growing. Maybe they actually shrink in size. Boy, that'd be interesting. You grow, you get the full size, and then you start shrinking back to being a baby, and then past a baby to where you become a backwards baby, backwards swimming ghost fish. Oh my gosh, that's pretty funny. A little Benjamin Buttons action happening there. So purely an accident of my code there, but I do believe I created that growing with delta to be based on a max size of 3. So man, I think we're on to it here. So I'm gonna get some dinner and then see about how to fix this. So thanks for exploring this with me. I hope it wasn't too painful to watch, but maybe it was interesting to kind of see the process here of kind of just doing a little debugging on kind of such a curious problem. So we'll talk soon. So as I thought about that growth with delta going negative on me, I remember when I first set this up, I developed the formula so that, because I wanted the young fish, I wanted to grow faster than the bigger fish by some amount. So I tried to come up with a formula to make that happen. Linear formula, well, I'm trying to think. I forget what exactly the formula is. I don't even care what the formula is. But I developed it on this spreadsheet right here. Let's see, what is the formula? All right. So it's, so there's some exponential formula here, but let me zoom in here. So yeah, I remember that I had made this formula on a spreadsheet. I found the spreadsheet where I'd done it. I tried to keep a spreadsheet or two attached right in the project documents, so I don't lose track of them. And I was making a different tab for every different thing I'm exploring. So I was exploring how to do the growth here. This is actually the 5th growth table I came up with. I was trying different things here. There's growth 2, growth 3, growth 4, growth 5. Now I remember what I was trying to do. I was trying to get trying to figure out how do you add something to the width so that each time you add something to the width, the area of the fish growth is somewhat constant. That's what I was shooting for. I didn't get it exactly, but I got it better than just picking because if I made the width, the increase in width each term, if I made it constant, then the width would be growing at a constant rate, but the area would be growing at a non-constant rate. I didn't like that. So if you take a look at what I have here, as I designed this formula, I designed it thinking that the max width would be 3 and never get bigger than 3. So sure enough, if you look down below here, sorry, I grabbed the wrong thing here. So 3, it hits 3 right about here, where I've got it marked. And the number here is this is the width of the fish. It hits 3, which is going to be the max. Here's the amount it grows each time. Each growth unit, it grows less each time. But if you go past 3, eventually this number keeps going down, 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 and then becomes negative. So if you look at the width of the fish, it starts decreasing over time. So sure enough, as these things were growing past 3.2 something, they were starting to shrink after that, which is crazy to me. But so these fish that could grow to be 4 were never getting to the size 4. So I need to find some way to fix this, and I think the simplest way, rather than trying to find some new parameter that works, that's the key parameter right there, that 0.016. That's hard-coded in my code. I think instead of tweaking and trying to mess with the formula even more, because this was a pain to get this, and I basically like how it works, I think I will put a cap on it somewhere where maybe once it gets down to about here, to 0.09 or so, or 0.076, I'm going to make it constant after that. So if this number ever gets below here, it'll never get down to these parts right here. It'll just cap it right there and stop it. So the delta will stay that. So the fish will keep growing and not start shrinking. So a pretty easy fix. I'm glad I figured out why, and it's funny that sure enough, what bit me on the butt here was that in my formulas here, I sort of was hard coding mentally for 3 being the maximum width, and sure enough, by not making it dynamic, when I increased the width in the app, I totally forgot that would like break this part of the code. So any max width bigger than 3.2, 3.3 is really gonna be a problem with the current setup. So I got to add so it'll be really easy to add a little check if that number is bigger. If that number gets smaller than 0.08 or whatever, then just set it to 0.08. Don't let it keep decreasing. So not hard to do, not hard to fix. But I'm glad I figured out what was going on and that it makes sense why it was happening. I get nervous sometimes when I have a bug, especially some weird bug like that, and I think, what if I can't figure out what the problem is? What if I'm just stuck and I'm stumped because my code has gotten so complicated I can't make sense of it anymore. I can't find my bug. I can't fix it, or I can't fix it the right way. So it's always a relief when you find the root cause and can address it properly. So I guess the real proper way would be to redo this formula, but that's not so necessary. I just need to be sure this number never goes negative, and I'll be good to go. So let me go ahead and make that change to the code here. Okay, so I changed my mind. I realized I could just tweak this number here a little bit and see what worked better. I changed it from 0.016 to 0.012, and all of a sudden that got me to where it would grow positive up to 4.1 or something. Then it starts turning around and going back. So as long as I remember not to ever set my max width bigger than 4, I'll be fine. And maybe I'll hard code something into the code to prevent the max width from ever getting higher than 4. But I'm just going to change this 0.012 in the code. 0.016 will change to 0.012, and that should take care of it. So here it is in the growth method on the fish script. We'll change this to 0.2, and we should be totally good. Of course, I need to be sure that I don't make the mistake in the editor of changing that global variable that the max width could ever be more than 4. In fact, maybe I should do that. I could do that by going into global data and update static data. Let me see, I'm not sure I can find it here. Max width, no, what's it called? Max fish size. Where is it? Notice I have so many. Max velocity, max energy. I have such trouble finding this. I have so many parameters in this thing, it's just crazy. I'd like to make all these parameters available to a user down the road. You can really customize the simulation any way you wanted by changing all these values. But imagine the UI it would take to make that happen. So let me pause this while I look for that max fish size. Okay, so I found it. I had forgotten that I'd called it max full-grown fish width. So let me put a check here and say if I guess I could not even care if the global data has it, but just don't pass it into the static data, which the simulation actually uses. If that is greater than 4, then we're going to set it equal to 4. That will cap it, lock it down, and we'll never have to worry about it again. So if I mistakenly set it to more than 4 in the global data, 4 is the most we'll ever get passed into the static data. And this is the variable that is used. The SD variable is the one that's used by all the scripts. So that should take care of it. So I'm going to run the simulation here, save everything, compile it, and keep an eye out for those backwards fish. But I have a good feeling that we're not going to have those anymore, which in a way is kind of sad because that was kind of interesting. A fish gets full size, it grows backwards, it becomes it goes back before its birth, becomes pale, bigger, swims backwards, dies quickly. So strange. I'll have to think if there's a way to keep that feature in here somehow, just for fun. Well, I'm happy to report that changing that constant from 0.016 to 0.012 expanded the functionality of my growth with delta value formula to be usable within the range of fish widths, from 0 to a little over 4. So as long as I don't make my fish larger than 4, we should be good. I added that code to cap the static variable of max width to 4, even if I mistakenly put in a bigger number than 4. And as I've watched this for, let's see how long now I've watched this. Let's see, 11.3 minutes. And I'm going at a slower speed, so really it's been going for about 40 minutes real time. You'll notice that I'll report that I haven't had any backwards fish. No negative widths have come up, which makes sense that we figured out what was the problem there and took care of it. So one thing that's interesting about letting the simulation run for this long, given what we're looking at here, is when I look through these fish, they all have like max width genes very close to 4. And you can notice they're all quite big, and there's really not like many medium-sized fish. All the smaller fishes are very pale, which means they're not full size. Even this guy right here is like, he's kind of a light pink, so he's still growing to be full size. So he's probably going to be a size 4 too. In fact, we can check him by clicking on him, which is tricky to do when the frame rate's this bad. There we go. Yep, max width 3.83, so practically 4. So now the simulation works with the max width can be 4, but I'm thinking that might not be a good thing because a fish with a width of 4 is so large compared to the size of the plants, the size of other fish. It just dominates all other fish, eats up all the little fish, including any fish that might have a max width that's a bit smaller than. So I don't think much is gained at all by having the max width go up to 4. So I'm going to actually manually in my global variables change the my max width back to 3, watch some more simulations and be sure that's good. I will say this, notice that we had a green guy earlier, he died. We have this purple guy, he was not there. He is a mutation of all these kind of shorter pinkish purplish fish where he's darker purple, he's longer. I'm pretty sure that's would be a mutation of some sort also entered into that, having this long length ratio, and also this preferred speed of 8% also is another mutation that I noticed entered into the population kind of later on. He's in trouble because he's in the middle of the screen here. Maybe a little fish will push him into, because he's moving super slow, 8% of his preferred speed. But one last thing I'll say about this particular simulation is it's interesting how the plants have all clumped up on each side and not in the middle. Maybe that's because the fish tend to slow down against the edges when they bang into the wall. So they tend to poop along the walls. And their poop, if they eat mostly plants and not mostly fish, the poop will likely turn into grow a new plant if new plants can grow. So the fish in the middle of the simulation have been all eaten up, and the new plants have grown back off to each side, which is quite interesting. We'll see if that continues to be true when I change the max fish size back to 3, and also what's going to happen when the fish, when I add more behavior and more intelligence to the fish behavior. Because right now the fish are still very dumb, swimming in random directions. They're not seeing anything, so they're blind, and they're swimming in random directions. So when all that changes, then it might change where the behavior of everything, really. So, all right, well, we'll leave it at that. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for watching me clear that bug up. And always a good feeling to get those kind of things taken care of and fixed. You can sleep better at night without that uncertainty hanging over your head as a developer. And ready to tackle the next challenges here. And I've written those down, a few of them here. Let me make that bigger so you can see. So for one, I've got the I've completed these already. The bug plants grow super large when being bitten too slowly by stationary fish. I think that was happening when those backwards fish were like just sitting on the plants not moving. That might still be an issue if fish learn how to like stop swimming when they're by a plant, so they can just sit there and eat it, behavior wise. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, I'm not going to do anything on that one. So let's say ignore for now. Making that note to myself to remember what I'm doing there. I also have a to-do here, because right now if you click on the sound listener by mistake, it deselects the fish that's selected, because the sound listener is now included as a genuine collider on the fish. So I think what I need to do is move my logic for selecting a fish and deselecting a fish, move it to the fish graphics, which will just pick up the colliders on the fish itself, not that big collider of the sound listener that's traveling around with it. I think that should address that, but that'll be a little bit of work to do that. I also want to add the ability in the simulation to save and load a simulation. So to save a simulation where you are, so you can quit the app, come back in and reload it where it began, where it left off. Not exactly. I'm not going to save every fish's location and speed. That's not that important to me. But I do want to save all the fish in terms of like what their fish genes are. And maybe their age, size. That might be sufficient to take care of that. So then you can like run the same simulation over and over again without having to restart to see how things change, you know, if you really let things go a long time. And I noticed that when I was trying to click on a fish earlier, but he was behind the zoom slider, I was sliding the zoom instead of selecting the fish. So that was kind of a pain. I need to like look at my sliders that are on the screen and be sure the sliding portion that it picks up is as skinny as possible, so that the labels don't count as part of the sliding area, for instance. So that's about it for my near term to dos. Longer term to dos, of course, is to change how the fish move. I do want to get rid of the walls of the. Once I have that, I can have them select locations within a range of area to swim towards. At that point, I can get rid of the walls around the aquarium, which will be good, because the fish behave weirdly around those, if you haven't noticed. All right, so thanks for listening, and hope you enjoy your Saturday. It's February 12th.